Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. NASA says a giant asteroid is hurtling toward Earth, Tony.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Earth can take it, but I'd be worried if it struck Uranus.
May 2nd.
What's that?
2017.
What happened?
You did a Uranus joke.
And?
I've given you all this time between then and now.
That's a funny joke.
Was that 8 months, 7 months?
You know, people love the Uranus joke.
Who says?
I get mail
you
about
got
it.
Research?
I get mail about it.
Huh?
They say Wilbon is
Mail.
just a spoil sport about Uranus.
Mail?
It's
No one has
funny.
mail.
I get mail to my house.
What are you?
I got mail.
You got mail?
Comes
Since
in-
1989,
comes
you and
in
Tom
envelopes.
Hanks?
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Mike Tomlin gets scrutinized, Trae Young turns it over, and Steve Young joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin again today with NBA players behaving badly. This time it was Orlando's Arron Afflalo who took a full roundhouse swing at Minnesota's Nemanja Bjelica. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Both were tossed from last night's game, having previously received technical fouls for their physical play against each other. Wilbon, let's start small. What kind of punishment should Afflalo receive?
I give him 5 games.
That's a lot.
So, hey, mate.
5's a lot.
5. I mean, if you come back and you tell me we're going to give him 3, I'm not going to, try to picket the building. 5 games, no. No, the league, very carefully, with agreement from all sides, has gotten away from that kind of behavior, which you and I covered games when this happened every other night. But you can't have that anymore. And the league has said no, and players and owners understand it. And so Afflalo does this. And, the stuff that led up to it, it wasn't egregious. It was pushing and shoving, and somebody got an elbow. So what? You can't do that.
So we sat here yesterday, and I told you that I understand that the league is riding high now, and everybody loves the league, and that's great for the league. One of the red flags to me is fighting. Fighting is different in this sport than other sports because it's not a helmet league. Because you're out there. Everybody sees you. They come to see you very specifically play. When you have fighting, people may take away the notion that, wow, this league's sort of out of control. There's a player-friendly commissioner. Maybe he's bent over too far backwards. So I would ask you this. Not that he should become Roger Goodell. Not that he should go all the way over there. But are we reaching the point, particularly with star players saying they're done with referees, are we reaching the point where a commissioner has to come in and say, hey, for the good of the league, we got to stop this?
Yeah. And you do that sort of dispassionately. You convene everybody, and I'm not sure an all-star break is where you do it, but maybe you have to.
They're there.
Maybe you have to. They're all together.
Yeah.
But you do this, Tony, but the NBA players also have a power and an obligation because of race, okay, to the public and to each other, and they understand an extra burden that baseball and football and hockey, damn sure not hockey, they don't have that. And so this is part of the conversation that is going to have to be led by the Players Association, right? That includes Chris Paul, and by the stars of the league, which starts with LeBron James, and they're not afraid of this conversation.
So,
they understand it.
I know we're
but
over
it has
the bell,
to be
but
hit.
let's stay with the race for a second.
Yeah.
Because if there's a problem, for example, in baseball, if a pitcher of one race waits 3 months and gets back at a batter of another race, that, people do notice that. Do you think fights between black players and white players become more dramatic and are more alarming?
I think they're less dramatic than probably ever. In part because people don't even know what everybody is.
Right.
People from Eastern Europe and interracial situations. People don't examine this in quite the same way. It can be obvious. They don't examine it in quite the depth they used to, and guys get over things quicker, I think. But the league, yes, Adam Silver's going to have to convene people, and they're going to have to deal with this.
In the wake of the Pittsburgh Steelers' surprising loss at home last Sunday to the Jacksonville Jaguars, there's a report, here I go coughing again, there's a report in Pro Football Talk that some limited partners intend to lobby owner Art Rooney to fire Mike Tomlin. These are limited partners without controlling interest. Wilbon, is there any reasonable case for dumping Mike Tomlin?
I think these things are never reasonable. I think there's sort of like just reactions and angry reactions in the moment after losses, which in this case was 48 hours or less for those investors who might be upset. And so, no, Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been to another. No. But the Pittsburgh Steelers community was embarrassed by what happened last week.
Yes.
And so that is what they're taking out now on the only person they probably feel they can, Mike Tomlin.
There is some notion among diehard Pittsburgh Steelers fans that Mike Tomlin's teams underperform in the playoffs. Gets to the playoffs all the time. As you say, never had a losing record. I think it's insane to suggest this. But step one before you fire a coach is you change your coordinators. And today, we find out that Todd Haley will no longer be back as the offensive coordinator. I can justify that on the 4th and 1 calls. I think you can as well.
Yeah.
But once you get rid of your coordinators, the next time they get rid of you.
I don't think this is a football thing. And you can get rid of the coordinator, particularly Haley, who always has some beef with somebody, including, his Hall of Fame-bound quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger.
Yes,
and I am choosing Big Ben over Todd Haley 100 times out of 100.
Yeah.
I am. This is not that. If the Pittsburgh Steelers were embarrassed last week, it's because of the way they conducted themselves. And that cannot be blamed on a coordinator. Mike Tomlin has to answer for that. He has to answer to his owners. I don't mean investors. I mean people last named Rooney. And they have to sit Mike in that office, and they clearly love him. We've had conversations with people about this for a decade. They love him. But they got to say, Mike, we can't have this. Your players don't have to be like the New England Patriots, but we don't want to tolerate that anymore.
3 coaches in 50 years, the most stable franchise in all the
And so they're not firing Mike Tomlin.
If I gave Mike Tomlin any single bit of advice, I might say this. Could you get your players like Roethlisberger and Bell and Mitchell, could you get them not to be so mouthy before games?
Yeah.
Could you do that?
Tony, today we're reminded why it's best to hold back just a little on the breathless evaluation of college freshmen. Trae Young, Oklahoma's freshman point guard, has been mostly dazzling and a reason for some people to check into college basketball.
Like you.
Last night, a cautionary note was sounded, though. The kid committed 12 turnovers and missed 13 of his 21 shots, and the number 4 ranked Sooners lost at K-State. Tony, does one poor performance make you want to completely jump off the kid's bandwagon now?
No, because I find him very exciting to look at. But I told you the other day that I had watched the complete second half of TCU against Oklahoma. A game in which he had 9 turnovers. So now he goes from 9 to 12. So that's 21 turnovers in 2 games. He leads the country in turnovers, a very bad statistic. That means that that's a potential of 42 to 63 points in 2 games that you have handed to another team. His coach, Lon Kruger, was a point guard at Kansas State and has given him the ball and said the ball's in your hands more than any. I know it's analytics, you don't want to hear it, but his hands have the ball more than any other player in the country because he's a really great player. But it may be time for Lon Kruger to say, let's just pull it back just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't want to jump off his bandwagon.
No,
but
he's
I'm
really
realizing when I praise him anyway, he's a freshman.
Yeah,
he's a freshman in college. He's 6'1" or 6'2". All right, he is not going to dominate a game in the same way Karl Anthony Towns could when he was a freshman. Or there are other freshmen you might, or
but
not
Karl
even
Anthony
Isaiah
Towns
Thomas.
is a dependent player because you got to get him.
You got to get him the ball. Okay, then not Isaiah Thomas. When he was a freshman, he was a sophomore, he won a national championship. So
other Isaiah Thomas.
That's right. Isaiah Lord Thomas, the previous Isaiah Thomas. So Tony, I don't want to jump off his bandwagon, but can we, we need to hold back just a little on just deciding that all these freshmen are the next greatest things in basketball history.
He leads the country in scoring, in assists, and turnovers. And in
when he's got
ball
the ball,
domination.
He'll lead it in something.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me, do I want to see him? Yeah. I want to see him. Is he going to have some bad games? Sure, because, again, they pay coaches on the other team to analyze what you do.
There's no college freshman who hasn't had a bad game.
No.
So let's not overreact to this either.
Isaiah Thomas, the current Isaiah Thomas.
That's right.
Not Lord.
IT.
Yeah, was going to receive a video tribute in Boston on February 11th when the Cavaliers come to town again. But Paul Pierce objected to that, as he was already scheduled to have his Celtics jersey retired that night. Pierce said, quote, "I just don't see how, if someone is having a jersey retirement, they're going to be running other tributes for other players," unquote. Subsequently, Thomas backed off, tweeting, quote, "Since it appears this has caused some controversy with Paul Pierce's night, I would ask the Celtics instead to focus all their attention on number 34's career," unquote. Wilbon, are you okay with Pierce's position?
I think so, Tony. I was in Boston a week or so ago when this came up because Isaiah Thomas didn't want to be honored when he didn't play. Remember, he was just coming back and he was warming up on the floor.
Yes.
He didn't want that.
Yes.
And I thought that night when they announced it was going to be done the same day as Paul Pierce's, and I will be in Boston for that, I just thought, why would you do that? Why not just tell Isaiah Thomas, you're not playing, so what? We're going to have a timeout. We're going to honor you. He didn't win 4 championships or even 1. He didn't even get to the finals.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a great season. It was very emotional, particularly the way the season ended. Everybody felt for him. But okay, an ovation's fine, but do you have to, aren't we going too far here?
When I first heard about this, I thought that Paul Pierce was being petty. And I thought about it. Paul Pierce won a championship.
Yeah.
Paul Pierce, let me get this right.
To that.
15 seasons in Boston. Isaiah Thomas was here for an hour.
About a season and a half, something like that?
2+.
2+.
2+. And Isaiah Thomas said, well, I'm not going to play the first game, so why don't you hold off for a while?
No, should have had it that night. Should have done it that night.
And even though I think that in times in Paul Pierce's career, he has tended to dramatize his own circumstance. I've thought that. If I have to pick in this, I am squarely with Paul Pierce. And I will quote in the words of Rajon Rondo, who I believe played with Paul Pierce.
This is tough.
Rajon Rondo says, what has Isaiah Thomas done? When it is pointed out Isaiah Thomas took them to the Eastern Conference Finals, Rondo then said, oh, that's what we celebrate around here? This is the Boston Celtics. This isn't the Phoenix Suns. The Celtics don't hang conference banners, unquote.
That's like basically saying orange slices and trophies for everybody. We're not having that. Isaiah Thomas had a great year for them, particularly last year. But I don't know you need a special day to honor that.
I think he backed away very nicely.
He did. He was very gracious. But I'm going to very gracious.
Side with Pierce. Let's take a break. Coming up, how should Jalen Ramsey's teammates feel about his Super Bowl talk? We're going to ask Steve Young.
We'll also ask him what Case Keenum could have been thinking when he released that pass to beat the Saints.
I don't even know why they're doing this for Isaiah.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, I don't really.
Pardon the Interruption is brought to you by Pizza Hut. No one out pizzas the Hut.
Steve Young may be a Pro Football Hall of Famer, but he does not yet have the credentials to join me in the Hewlett High School Hall of Fame.
Because he didn't go to Hewlett High School.
Details. We welcome him nonetheless. We start with this. You've been a fan of the Jaguars for much of this season. Are there reasons they succeeded against the Steelers that you feel translate to playing against the Patriots?
Kind of the only hope, Tony, that I think that they can translate in New England is that they can score enough points to beat Tom Brady. Tom will figure out a way with that. Jacksonville defense is solid. We know that, maybe well above average. But in between the numbers where not a lot of quarterbacks play, he loves it. Tight ends, backs, he'll be 27 of 34. And they'll figure out, if they knock him down, then they really have a chance. But he'll be 27-34 and have a very nice game. But what can you keep up with him? Can you score enough points? And Blake Bortles, if you just took his body of work this last weekend, that's all you knew about him. He looks calm, collected, playoff ready, makes the big throws, and then also can extend leads, can make the big plays that actually win the game. So you say to yourself, does that translate? That translates. But can you replicate that? We have not seen that replication model of the Jacksonville Jaguars with Blake Bortles. But if he can, why not? Who could see them putting up 45 in Pittsburgh?
Steve, last week you told us it was like he had a turban and was playing fortune teller.
Yes.
You said the only thing that could undo the Steelers is hubris, and God knows that was part of what undid them. Jalen Ramsey has now said the Jaguars are going to the Super Bowl. They're going to win it. I mean, is this the same situation? If you were on that team, he was your teammate, how would you feel about this?
It's like Hoosiers. When you're coming from nowhere. I mean, Jacksonville, everyone's like, oh, they're going to go to London because there's nothing in, they had there's 31 teams and there's 35 teams and there's Jacksonville. There's 40 teams and there's Jacksonville. I mean, that's how they've been looked at. You talk about being the caboose. And so all of a sudden they're in the championship game and that they beat the Pittsburgh and the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Say what you want. It's not. I don't think it's relevant. It's like somebody from Hoosier. Was it Hoosier High School? Was that the actually name of that? No, it was
Hickory High School.
Hickory High School. It's like we're going to be. Yell it. Do what you want. It's not going to be hubris is not a problem for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
We want to ask you to get into quarterback psyche a little bit. Going back to Minnesota and the last pass Case Keenum threw, when he takes that snap, Steve, and he's dropping back. And he raises his arm to throw. Is he absolutely thinking right then, we're going to win the game on this play?
No, and you saw his reaction. As a quarterback, I mean, I did that last play of the game against the Packers, but we could put it in the end zone. When you're at your own 39, you're not putting it in the end zone. There's no rational way other than something insane that puts you in the end zone that gives you a shot at winning this game. So what you want to do is put the ball in play. The worst thing you do is I've seen guys in those situations throw it out of bounds. Or it's like, at least put the ball in play and see what happens. But it is absolutely shocking. Something that would have to be once in 100 years had to happen, and it did. And so that's the part of the NFL you can't predict. But as you take the ball from center, you ask me his mindset, I think put the ball in play, and maybe one in a million things happen, and it did.
Let's go to Nick Foles for a second, the other quarterback in the NFC title game. How do you assess what he and the Eagles did last week?
They played horizontal. They played very safe, I think. They said to Nick Foles, you're not going to lose this for us. We're not going to go winging it around. And I think to win this game, it's a little different. You can't play horizontal offense, meaning I'm going to throw slip screens and try to get the ball out to the backs and try to get the slant. And, you're going to have to make a few throws, penetrating chunk throws, and into the end zone a couple times to be in the 24, 28s to go win this football game. And Nick Foles, when we win it, you'll be one of the main reasons why. And if we lose it, you're going to be one of the main reasons why. I don't think that was the game plan last week. Last week, it was not to have Nick Foles be that person either way. This week, I don't think they have a choice. He has got to be the reason that they win or the reason that they lose.
So we'll get you out of here on this. And apropos of the fact that you are, in fact, a football Hall of Fame quarterback, you got Tom Brady, who's going to join you there. And then you got three guys who are long shots on the board that we've talked about in Foles and Keenum and Bortles. And these are the final four quarterbacks. With all of that in mind, are you leaning any particular way in either or both of these games?
Yeah, you have to lean to the Patriots. They just don't leak any oil. They're better coached than anyone in the league. They demand so much from their players that they have not just a couple, 3 wrinkles. They have 15. They come in at halftime. They're not making changes at halftime. They just got another pocket full of stuff that they're going to do. So they're a lap ahead of everybody, and they're proving it through the last 15 years. If you don't capitulate to that by now, then come on, be honest. So you lean to the Patriots, no question about it. They're a lap ahead. The other game, I lean to the Minnesota Vikings. I think they're better defensively slightly, and I think they're better offensively slightly. So I think, to me, I like the Minnesota Vikings. But great football game in the NFC. I don't know how the Jacksonville Jaguars deal with the truth of someone being a lap ahead of you every race.
So I said I would get you out on that, but I have one more, because you told us last week that you, when you saw the play that Mariota made when he threw it to himself, that had happened to you, but you hadn't gotten the end zone. In your entire life, did you ever have a play like Keenum made? Did you ever have that play?
No, not like that. That's the dream come true. That's like, oh, I can't believe that this is good. Look, you have Sean Payton over there taunting the player. I mean, it was like the fans, and it was over. In the NFL, you might, in high school, I am in the Greenwich High School Hall of Fame, I believe, Tony. Obviously, I can check, but just so we're clear on that. But I think in high school you can concoct those, but even those are really hard to believe. No, I've never had a dream come true where you've lost the game. You think of the 50 things you could have done that would have fixed everything, and how you screwed ever, and how many times in this game you could have fixed it and you didn't, and now you. Oh my gosh, did you see Case Keenum? He threw his helmet off. He was running around like in shock. No, I wish that could have happened. Everyone dreams of that happening to them.
Thank you so much as always, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Okay, guys. See ya.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, Anthony Davis is on a tear.
He is.
Is he back to being the player that so many believed would dominate the NBA?
And could Corey Crawford's health struggles knock my Blackhawks out of Stanley Cup competition? Might knock us out of the playoff picture.
Really?
We're
You're not going to win
tied
this
for
year?
8th.
You're not going to win
This year it's a rebuild year.
Okay.
We knew that.
Oh, we
knew that.
Yeah, okay.
Coach Q and I.
Yeah.
We knew.
Quenneville, right?
Yes, Quenneville. Very good out of you.
At the time, people happy 96th birthday, Betty White.
Your girl.
96. That's fabulous. And she's still acting occasionally. She recently told Parade magazine she credits her long and productive life to vodka and hot dogs. When we were in high school together, I wanted to take her to the junior prom, but Louis Carnesecca beat me to it.
Give me the character she played on the Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Sue Ann Nivens.
Sue Ann Nivens. Very good.
Got that right.
I didn't think you could get that.
Not so happy anniversary, Minnesota Vikings, speaking of Minnesota.
Yeah.
On this day 19 years ago, Gary Anderson missed this 38-yard field goal, his only miss of the entire season, costing the Vikings a trip to the Super Bowl. The Vikings are one win away from the Super Bowl now, and there isn't a Minnesota fan alive, even with last week's miracle win, who isn't speculating on who may blow their chances against Philadelphia.
You know how powerful that team was? Randall Cunningham, Chris Carter, Randy Moss, Robert Smith, they're skilled position players. They were great. They couldn't make it because that kick missed.
A melancholy happy trails to JoJo White, the lead guard of 2 NBA championship Celtics teams, died yesterday at age 71. Besides White, those Celtics teams featured Dave Cowens, Paul Silas, and John Havlicek.
Man.
White was an All-American at Kansas and an Olympic gold medalist in 1968 in Mexico City. The quip going around with White is that he was drafted 4 different times by the Celtics, the Dallas Cowboys, the Cincinnati Reds, and the United States Marine Corps.
You know when he arrived at the Celtics? right after, and I mean right after Bill Russell retired. All right? Sam Jones retired. So he has to go into the lineup. They have their first losing season, and he perseveres. He and a guy named Dave Cowens and a holdover named John Havlicek, and they win 2 championships. Yeah. JoJo White at the center of history. Tony was on Kansas, and they lost to Texas Western. The guy starts his run
Texas
with
Western
basketball history when he's in college at Kansas.
One omission, Tom Brady was limited in practice today with a right hand injury. Big deal, little deal, no deal?
No deal yet. It's Wednesday. Let's see.
Let's go to the big finish. The Spurs announced today Kawhi Leonard is out indefinitely. That's a big deal.
That is a big deal. Lingering quad injury seems more to sell. You can't win without your very best player. The Pelicans ended the Celtics' 7-game winning streak. Anthony Davis had 45 for the second straight game. That's significant, right?
If you can consistently win, they're 23-20. They should be better.
I think so.
Blackhawks fear Corey Crawford could miss the rest of the season with vertigo-like symptoms. Is that a season changer for your Blackhawks?
We need a season changing for the better. I mean, only tied for 8th right now, Tony. It's hard to imagine making the playoffs without him. Lane Kiffin hired 24-year-old Charlie Weiss Jr. as his OC. Good move?
It's sweet, but Lane Kiffin is his own offensive coordinator. That's what he does. Okay. Last one, number 1 Villanova at Georgetown tonight. You smell an upset?
I don't know, but this is the first time Patrick Ewing will have been in the same place as Villanova since the ill-fated championship game in 1985.
We're out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I got extra tickets. You coming?
No, I have a cold.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow. Knucklehead. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcasts.
Tracy Callahan, Bethesda Florist. Shout out.